Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am super excited you're here today because we are going to explore the invisible blueprints that completely shape our world. We're talking about market structures, the fundamental ways that businesses either fight tooth and nail to compete with one another or totally avoid competing altogether. Now, I know that might sound like purely academic economic theory, but I promise you, this architectural spectrum directly impacts our daily consumer lives. It explains everything from the surprisingly high price of your morning coffee to the apps we just can't stop scrolling through. Okay, let's dive into this. At the very heart of our economy is a fascinating, constant tug-of-war for power. I want you to imagine, on one hand, standing right in the middle of a bustling farmer's market. There are dozens of stalls, everyone's shouting out their daily specials. It's chaotic. And then, on the other hand, think about your single, giant local utility company that just quietly sends you a bill every single month. Between these two scenarios is a massive shift in who actually holds the power, and ultimately, who benefits. So here is our roadmap for today. 1. Who holds the power? 2. The extremes of competition. 3. The messy middle ground. 4. The value of network effects. And finally, 5. Your role as a consumer. We are going to travel straight across the spectrum from one absolute extreme of competition to the other before finally arriving at the modern digital frontier. Section 1. Who holds the power? Let's figure out who really holds the cards when you decide to make a purchase. You see, these economic frameworks are far from just dry textbook concepts. They are the unseen forces that directly dictate the reality of our wallets. They're the exact reason why certain bills always seem painfully high, or why that one specific social media app completely dominates your screen time. The structure of the market literally dictates the entire strategic playbook for global firms. It's all connected. Section 2, the extremes of competition. We're starting at the very edges of our economic map today to see the total polar opposites of business power. And this brilliantly illustrates the vast difference between the two extreme ends of the spectrum. On the left side, you've got perfect competition, which represents the ultimate power of you, the consumer. On the right side, you have the monopoly, representing the absolute power of the business. Understanding the stark contrast between these 2 points is really the master key to decoding everything else we're going to talk about. So picture that massive farmer's market again. There are just tons of sellers, and basically anyone can grab a folding table and start selling. Because everyone is selling a totally identical product, let's say tomatoes, no single seller can dictate the price. I mean, think about it. If one tomato seller gets greedy and demands an extra $1, what do? You laugh. You take 2 steps to the left and you buy from the next stall. In this structure, sellers are forced to be what we call price takers. This extreme efficiency is a huge win for us as consumers because it guarantees the lowest possible prices. But then, we reach the total opposite end of the spectrum, the monopoly. And here, the hustle just stops completely. There is just one seller and absolutely zero competition. Think of the pipes delivering water to your house. You can't exactly run your own rogue set of competing pipes under the street just to get a better deal, right? Because there is literally no alternative, the company becomes a price maker, wielding massive, singular power over you. This rigid setup naturally leads to higher prices and a total lack of consumer choice. And that is exactly why governments often have to step in with heavy regulations and price limits just to protect us. Section 3, the messy middle ground. Let's transition back from those extremes to where most of us actually live, shop, and spend our paychecks every single day. Just a step down from a full-blown monopoly, we find the oligopoly. This is a market structure that is entirely dominated by just a few massive players. Now, these large firms hold a significant amount of power, sure, but they don't have total control because they still have a couple of heavyweight rivals. Because there's only a few of them, they really have to watch each other's every move like hawks. You interact with oligopolies all the time. Think about major airlines or your cell phone service provider. There's really only a few big names, right? Now, they will try their hardest to tempt you with unique features, maybe it's some free streaming perks, or a boarding process that is slightly less chaotic. But have you ever noticed how their base prices stay suspiciously similar? That's because they are constantly monitoring each other. If one drops their price, the others immediately match it. So they much prefer to compete on service rather than triggering a messy price war. Next up is monopolistic competition. This is a highly crowded, fiercely competitive space. There are lots of companies selling things that fundamentally serve the exact same purpose, but they work incredibly hard to convince you that their specific version is totally unique. In this structure, marketing and branding are absolutely everything. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how businesses use differentiation to carve out a tiny little slice of monopoly-like power. Like a sneaker is technically just a piece of rubber and cloth, right? But add a celebrity endorsement and a flashy logo, and suddenly consumers are fiercely loyal. Sneaker brands give us tons of options, which keeps variety super high. This is fantastic for us as consumers, but it grants the business just a tiny bit of price control to charge a premium for their specific brand, without controlling the whole market. Okay, let's summarize our journey across the spectrum so far. Notice the direct inverse relationship here. We want to lock this in. As the number of sellers shrinks from many down to one, the business's control over your wallet grows from none to high. At the exact same time, the product shifts from being totally identical to completely unique. It is literally a perfect slider of economic power. Section 4, the value of network effects. All right, it's time to pivot away from traditional physical markets and step onto modern tech strategy and the digital battleground. This single quote right here, it is the absolute holy grail of modern tech strategy. It defines what we call network effects. This is the crucial concept that drives the massive technology companies we interact with every single day, from the big social media platforms down to the video game consoles sitting in our living rooms. Network effects trigger this rapid, compounding growth cycle. And it goes like this. Step 1, a new platform launches. Step 2, initial users join. Step 3 is where the magic happens. The mere presence of those early users makes the platform inherently more valuable to the next person thinking about joining. And that leads directly to step 4, where that massive user base essentially builds an invisible, unscalable wall that completely locks out new competitors. Let's cement this concept with a classic analogy. Imagine having a brand new telephone, but it can only call 3 other people. Its actual utility is incredibly low. But if that exact same piece of plastic and glass can suddenly connect you to everyone on Earth, its value skyrockets. This proves a really vital point about the tech landscape. The technology itself isn't the only product anymore. The network of users is the product. You see, once this network effect takes full hold, it's pretty much game over for new entrants. Look at how quickly a single social media platform's user base just absolutely dwarfs its competitors. The dominant app becomes a functional monopoly. And not because their code is necessarily better, but simply because everyone you know is already on it. It massively reduces overall market competition. Section 5, your role as a consumer. Let's move to and see how this builds, bringing all of this grand economic theory directly back to your wallet. Every single thing we've discussed today, from the hustle of perfect competition right up to the lock-in of network effects, is quietly working in the background of your life. These business strategies and market structures completely influence which apps survive on your phone, how your home utilities are managed, the prices you are forced to pay, and the level of innovation you actually get to experience. Understanding this stuff turns you into a far more informed consumer, and quite frankly, a much sharper economic thinker. So the next time you download an app or book a flight or buy a fresh pair of sneakers, just pause for a second. Look at the transaction through this new economic architecture lens and ask yourself, are you a price maker or are you a price taker? And ultimately, how much choice do you really have? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.